My father came back from a trip to Appalachia once when I was a little boy, and he said to me, you know, this is the second poorest state in our country, and yet it should be the richest. It has the finest resources in all of America. And why is it, he wondered, could it be the poorest state? And why is it that the counties of West Virginia that have the most coal are the poorest counties in the state? And that is because of the tyranny of an industry that is now liquidating the state for cash, literally, tearing down the mountains. I talked to some of the miners, my mining friends over there, and they say, well, this is bringing great prosperity to the state of West Virginia. But the University of Kentucky just did a study that showed to their state, and it's very similar here, there's no difference, that the cost of coal, there's a net cost, not a net profit to coal from the state, of $156 million a year. These are all part of the cost of coal that they don't tell you about when they say it's 9 cents a kilowatt hour. This is a moral issue. We don't have a right to destroy something that we cannot recreate. It was God who made these mountains, and it's God Blankenship who is cutting them down. When my father was fighting strip mining in Appalachia back in the 60s, I remember a conversation that I had with him when I was 14 years old, where he said to me, they're not just destroying the environment, they're permanently impoverishing these communities, because there's no way that they can regenerate an economy from these barren moonscapes that are left behind. And he said to me, they're doing it so they can break the unions. And that's exactly what they did. When he told me that, there were 46,000 unionized mine workers in the state of West Virginia digging coal out of tunnels in the ground. Today, there are fewer than 11,000 miners left in the state. About half of them are unionized because the strip industry isn't. And they're taking more coal out of West Virginia than they were in 1968. The only difference is, back then, at least some of that money was being left in the state for salaries and pensions and reinvestment in the community. Today, virtually all of it goes straight out of the state towards Wall Street to the headquarters of Massey Coal, Arch Coal, Peabody Coal, and to the big banking houses like Morgan, Citibank, and Bank of America, which own these operations, which they obtained from people who swindled them from the people of West Virginia back in the 1880s. And they are literally liquidating this state for cash, using these giant machines and 2,500 tons of ammonium nitrate explosives. They detonate in Appalachia every single day. It's the equivalent of a Hiroshima bomb once a week. They're blowing the tops off the mountains to get the coal seams beneath. Then they take the rock and debris and rubble and they plow it into the adjacent river valley, and they bury the rivers, and they bury the valleys. According to EPA, they bury 2,000 miles of America's headwater streams and rivers and streams. This is a crime. You cannot do that in the United States of America. The Clean Water Act, it's a violation of the Clean Water Act. You can't take rock and debris and rubble and dump it into a river or water body without a Clean Water Act permit. Oh, give you love the mountains. Wave your flag if you love America and you love West Virginia and you love the mountains of West Virginia, which are the heart and soul of this country. But we're not intimidated by this. And we're not intimidated by the fact that we have corrupt public officials who are running this state. Because we know that we live in a democracy, and that it's our job to reclaim this democracy for the people of this state and for the children of this state, make sure we hand them a democracy and not a corrupt corporate plutocracy, and chop down mountains. I'll give you 8 mountaintop removal. And if you love America, you know, the polluters and their indentured servants in our political process, the corrupt public officials, the agencies they've captured, They're slick PR firms like Burson Marcella. They're phony think tanks in Washington, D.C., and they're phony scientists, you know, who say it's okay to cut down mountains. We call them biostitutes. They say, and the people in this agency here who say the same thing, you know, all of these, they've been very adept over the past few years at saying, at marginalizing environmentalists, at saying environmentalists are tree huggers or radicals or militants or pagans who worship trees and sacrifice people, as I heard the other day. But there's nothing radical about the idea of clean air and clean water for our children. And the mountains that God made, leave them like they made them. We're not fighting for the environment for the sake of the fishes and the birds. We're fighting for it because we understand that nature is the infrastructure of our communities. If, on the other hand, we want to do what Massey Coal and the big industry wants us to do, which is to treat the planet as if it were a business in liquidation, convert our natural resources, including the state of West Virginia, to cash as quickly as possible, have a few years of pollution-based prosperity, we can generate an instantaneous cash flow and the illusion of a prosperous economy. But our children are going to pay for our joyride, and they're going to pay for it with denuded landscapes and poor health and huge cleanup costs that are going to amplify over time and that they will never, ever be able to pay. Environmental injury is deficit spending. It's a way of loading the costs selfishly of our prosperity onto the backs of our children. From their own records, DEP's records, 10,000 violations of water quality standards against this industry over the past 10 years. 10,000 violations that they know about and that have not been enforced against. Why? Because the agency has been captured. Well, this is real crime. These are dangerous elements and chemicals and poisons that they're putting in our river systems. If a foreign enemy of our country or a foreign terrorist organization came to this country and poisoned every fish in our country with mercury, and poisoned 1 out of every 6 American women with mercury, and poisoned, as the CDC says, 640,000 American children every year with a brain-killing poison, what would you call those people? What would you call that? And what if they exploded 2,500 tons of ammonia nitrate explosives in one of the most beautiful states on earth every week? What would you call them? It's an issue of crime and getting away with it because you have the political clout to go into these agencies and capture them and to use our campaign finance system, which is just a system of legalized bribery, to control these, these crooked politicians in the state capitals on Capitol Hill. And it goes to the heart of who we are as a people, and it goes to our democracy. This is not just an issue about democracy, it's all of those things, but it's also a moral issue. And we have an obligation to our Creator, to our country, to our children, to make sure that it stops at Coal River Mountain, and from then on, it never happens again. God bless America, and God bless West Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.